There's a very important word in Catholic thought, and it helps to explain so much of what we believe and what we do. And that word is and. A-N-D. For example, you might ask, what's important for you Catholics, faith or works? And the answer is faith and works. Or you might say, what about Jesus Christ? Is he God or is he a human being? The answer is he's God and a human being. He's fully human and divine. Or you might ask, do you Catholics believe in Scripture or tradition? And the answer is Scripture and tradition. So if you pay attention, you see over and over again the wisdom of the Catholic and. Now, I'd like to apply that to the topic of the Eucharist. There are some people in our Catholic world who would like the church to be only about working for justice and peace and service to the poor. There are others in our Catholic world who don't want any of that, and they would like the church to be only about beautiful liturgy and dignified worship. But as Catholics, we're called to both. The truth is found in the Catholic and. A consistent and complete Eucharistic spirituality is one that sees the connection between sacrament and service. A Christian life that includes just one of those without the other is incomplete. Think about what Jesus did at the Last Supper and what he commanded us to do while he was at the Last Supper. What were the two main actions of Jesus at the Last Supper? They were the institution of the Eucharist and the washing of the feet. And Jesus issued two commands that evening. The first command is when he said, "Do this in memory of me." And he commanded us to do the Eucharist. That was the first Catholic Mass. But the other command that he issued that evening was when he washed their feet. And he said, "I have given you a model to follow. If I, the master and the teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet." He commanded us to serve one another by that action and by those words. We're celebrating in the Mass today the great gift of the Eucharist. And as Catholics, we know that the Holy Eucharist is the source and the summit of the entire life of the Church. All the good things that we do as Catholic Christians lead us to the Eucharist. And all the life of the Church flows from the Eucharist. The Eucharist is the source from which our service flows. And so, at the Last Supper, and in our daily routines as Catholic Christians, the Eucharist and the foot washing represent two sides of the same coin of the Christian life. That's why we should always be able to see the link between dignified worship of Christ at the altar in the Mass and service of Christ in the poor and the needy on the streets of our towns. Now, Mother Teresa of Calcutta realized this truth beautifully. And so on the walls of the chapels where her sisters lived, near the crucifix and the tabernacle, she would have painted on the wall these words, "I thirst." And she taught her sisters the intimate connection between the thirst of Christ for our love and the thirst of our brothers and sisters for our care. The connection between the profound devotion in prayer and adoration of the Blessed Sacrament on the one hand, and on the other hand, picking up the poor and the destitute off the streets of Calcutta and caring for their basic needs, trying to see Christ himself in the least of our brothers and sisters. Mother Teresa saw this connection. So I'd like to share with you a few quotes from Mother Teresa that help us to see this. She writes, "I know that I would not be able to work 1 week if it were not for that continual force coming from Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. She went on and she says, as soon as we receive Jesus in Holy Communion, let us go in haste to give him to our sisters and brothers, to our poor, to the sick, to the dying, to the lepers, to the unwanted, and to the unloved. She also said, in each of our lives, Jesus comes as the bread of life, to be eaten, to be consumed by us. This is how he loves us. Then, Jesus comes in our human life as the hungry one, the other, hoping to be fed with the bread of our life, our hearts by loving and our hands by serving. Those are beautiful words from Mother Teresa. She grasped beautifully that Catholic and. And in this Mass, along with Catholics all around the world, we're celebrating the institution of the Eucharist. And we give thanks to God for that sublime gift of Holy Communion. And our response to the great gift of the Eucharist must be to pour out ourselves in service to others. If Jesus Christ, who is God himself, could humble himself to wash the stinking feet of his apostles like a servant, then we too must wash the feet of one another like servants. These same hands that open up to receive the Blessed Sacrament in Mass and that reach up to God in prayer are the same hands that must reach out to help a neighbor in need. And that means sometimes reaching out beyond our own personal comfort zones. It is our faith that enables us to recognize Jesus Christ in the bread and the wine of the Eucharist. And that same faith should also enable us to recognize Jesus Christ in the poor, the sick, the hungry, the imprisoned, the shut-ins, the sick, the elderly, the forgotten, the unborn child, and in the member of your family who's crying out for your help and for your love. Let's ask the Lord to help us to integrate fully into our lives the beauty of the Catholic and.